They're killing Christians in Mozambique and Hindus in Bangladesh. Their hatred of Jews is at its peak, and there's no one with whom they mesh. The jihad advances from day to day, even while David Wood is far away. But we have Apostate Prophet with us, and it is a tremendous honor to welcome you, sir, to This Week in Jihad. You may or may not know that every episode starts with the revelation coming upon me and a surah of the This Week in Jihad being brought to me by Allah. And there's an ongoing challenge to any of the Muslims watching this, that if they can produce a surah like it, then I will convert to Islam. But you and David are going to be the judges when we get the entries.
That's the important factor right there. That is the most important thing. Who is going to be in charge of deciding?
Yeah. Precisely. So, anyway, welcome to This Week in Jihad. And I suppose the top story this week, not a big shining top story, but still a remarkable one, I thought. There are a couple of imams back in Turkey. Actually, one of them is a theologian, and the other is an imam. And since we are both from that area, I thought this might be fun to start off with. That was my land, and then you stole it, and now neither of us are there.
I'm not giving it back to you.
I'm gonna write to Erdogan and say I want my right of return. Anyway, what we have is Abu Bakr Sifil and Halil Konaki. I'm no doubt mispronouncing those. Abu Bekir, which is Turkish for Abu Bakr. Abu Bekir Sifil and Halil Konat. How do you say this I that's not dotted? AP. What on earth is that?
That's an sound.
So it's Konaksu or something.
Yeah, it's
like
Konakçı. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. He's
I've heard of
imam
Abu
in
Bakr
Istanbul.
before.
All right, so
What do they do?
These guys are upset because they have been. They were investigated because one of them said, Sifil said, if a person deliberately and continuously neglects prayer, they may be punished. They may be summoned, reprimanded, summoned again, warned, summoned again, and beaten. If they persist, they may be killed as a discretionary punishment. And then this other guy, Halil Konakçı. Okay. Yeah. His real name is probably Papadopoulos, but anyway, he says there is compulsion in religion. Now, I think, how could an imam get away with saying something that directly contradicts what the Quran says? But he goes on, there is a legal penalty for not praying. It may not be enforced now, but there is a penalty for not fasting, beating. So there is compulsion. So the communists brought these guys up. They made a complaint, a legal complaint, saying that they were openly inciting hatred and hostility. But the Istanbul Chief Public Prosecutor's Office ruled that no prosecution was necessary because, of course, what they were saying was true. That there is, if you don't pray, you ought to be beaten and killed.
Wow.
So...
I think they might have taken those teachings from the Quran and from Muhammad.
Indeed. What does Muhammad say about such things?
He says that whoever leaves his religion shall be put to death.
But they're not leaving their religion. They're just not praying today. You know, well, like I'd rather watch the game or whatever.
Well, he said that as soon as a child reaches the age of reason, they should be taught to pray. And if they don't do it, then they should be forced. They should be beaten, basically, to pray. And he even said that he was thinking one night of going around and burning the homes down of those who didn't come to the prayer, which is very, very rude.
Yeah. It is. I don't understand it. The religion of peace and tolerance. But there's plenty of peace and tolerance in the UK, and these are parallel stories. that I thought it was very interesting. These all broke this week. Uh, in England, there was an imam who preached a sermon in which he said, "O Allah, curse the Jews and the children of Israel. O Allah, curse the infidels and the polytheists. O Allah, break their words, shake their feet, disperse and tear apart their unity, ruin their houses and destroy their homes." So these guys, this guy, his name is not mentioned in the story, but this guy, like Kanaksha
Hmm.
and the other and Syphil, a disease was named after him. But anyway, they were.
That's all I can think of when you say his name.
I didn't name him. Here again, his name is probably Andropoulou. But anyway,
It actually makes sense if you pronounce it as syphilis. It sounds more, could make sense. It could make
yes,
sense.
yeah, absolutely. Uh, the thing is, I love those stories. You've seen the stories, no doubt, of all these Turks being enraged and saying that they took the DNA tests and they found out they were Greek or Armenian.
I saw. Yeah, you know what's very funny? Lots of people have over the years accused me of not being a real Turk and possibly being like a secret Jew or a Greek or
Mhm.
something like that. And the funny thing is, I took an ancestry DNA test, and I saw lots of results from people who also took the test, and lots of them in Turkey are apparently significantly less Turkish than I am. It seems like I happen to be on the more Turkish side compared to.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's all right. We'll still get through this. The Metropolitan Police have determined that the imam who said destroy the homes of the Jews and the infidels and the polytheists and basically everybody that is not Muslim, that's not a crime. So they're not going to do anything about it. It's okay to pray to Allah to destroy the homes of the Jews and their allies. Now, actually, the one of the reasons why the Metropolitan Police is stupid is it not in the Quran that the Muslims execute the wrath of Allah?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of
Yes.
chapter 9, verse 14. Fight them and Allah will punish them by your hands. So
Yeah.
if an imam prays, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if an imam prays that, why isn't your thing coming up here? If an oh, there it is. I don't know what that is, but anyway, that's what it said. So if an imam prays, "Oh Allah, destroy their homes," is he not asking people to go destroy their homes because they
Yes.
will be executing the wrath of Allah?
Yes. Precisely.
So the Metropolitan Police, they don't have a clue, and it gets worse. Wait, it gets worse. Uh, Police in Cambridgeshire, United Kingdom, they refused to arrest a man who sent the Nazi symbol to Jewish students. And they said that it was a non-crime hate incident.
Uh huh. They don't quite treat things that way when you harass Muslims or even make fun of the Islamic prayer. There was a guy several years ago who simply appeared on a viral video where he was at the I believe at an airport, the prayer room, and he was in a very silly way imitating the Muslim prayer. He got arrested. He got in trouble. I got in touch with him. I'm not sure what eventually happened to the guy, but they took that very seriously. A moment of just being a little bit silly, a little bit goofy on a video about Islam.
Well, you know what old Khomeini said. There's no fun in Islam. There are no jokes in Islam. There's no humor in Islam. So they were probably getting lessons
What
from
he did
Khomeini.
think, however, about fun is that you can marry a girl at any age, and you can also you have to wait until she's 9 to consummate the marriage. However, at any time before that, you can engage in other sexual activities with that girl at any time. This is
Yep.
directly in his book.
There's just there's no age limit. I have a whole collection of quotes from various Muslim authorities from around the world saying there's no age limit. You can marry an infant. You can marry a 1 day old girl.
So
And
so you shouldn't have fun, but you can have fun with little girls, of course.
yes, yes, that's right. As long as you don't laugh about it. If you if you start cracking jokes about it, strictly out.
Then you're in trouble.
Yes. The only time Muhammad laughs heartily is when there is. It's a story that's repeated with a couple of variations that I talk about in my Muhammad, a critical biography book, because people have cited it to say Muhammad was such a friendly, chummy, charming fellow, and he would laugh so you could see his back teeth. He would laugh so heartily. And so you go to the stories, and there's different variations, but each one of them involves an infidel getting humiliated and murdered. And Muhammad is laughing uproariously.
He loves that.
Yes.
He absolutely loves that. And you know what's interesting? We just talked about Turkey, and you just mentioned that Halil Konakçı and the other syphilis person.
Syphil, yes.
Oh, syphil, yeah, sorry. So the so they were apparently there was no wrongdoing on their behalf. The interesting thing is, as I tried to remember who these people are, because the names sound very familiar, an article came up where from a year ago, where a Turkish, very well-known singer, a pop star, was sentenced to 10 months in prison because she made a joke. Because she made a joke about people who go to religious schools.
I remember that. Did that involve one of these clowns?
No, but it was the entire nation, I guess, became angry and went at her and pressured the government into doing something. She was then sentenced to 10 months. I think it was eventually overruled, and she was sentenced to house arrest or something. But she basically just made a joke where she said, "Oh, he went to an imam school. That might be the reason why he's such a pervert." That's the joke she made, and for that she was sentenced to 10 months in prison. Imagine. But inciting violence against the disbelievers and so on, it's just whatever.
Yeah, it's not like you told a joke.
Yeah.
So we actually have a story like that, just about what we were talking about. Ahmed Yaqub, where is he? Here's Ahmed. Ahmed Yaqub was arrested in Greece, New York, which you guys haven't taken over yet. It's still it's not Turkey, New York. It's Greece, New York. And Greece, New York, he was arrested for sexual assault and rape of a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old girl. He picked them up in his car, took them to a secluded area, raped them both. Ahmed Yaqub. But he did not, at least according to the report from WIVB, in the Greece, New York area, he didn't crack any jokes about it. So he's in the clear Islamically, is he not?
Probably, yeah. Probably.
Yes. What we have is...
You said a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old?
Yeah, they're a little old, I know.
I know, they're grandmas.
Yeah, here's some of them. The Diyanet actually is... How do you say that, AP?
The Diyanet?
Is that right? Or is
that's right. That's right.
The Directorate of Religious Affairs in Turkey said girls as young as 9 could marry, but the Ishaq Akintola, a professor of Islamic eschatology and the director of Muslim Rights Concern in Nigeria, because people are always trampling upon Muslims' rights, says Islam has no age barrier in marriage, and Muslims have no apology for those who refuse to accept this. In Iraq, a Sharia jurist, Abdul Hamid Al-Ubaidi, says there's no minimum age for either man or woman in Islamic law. The law in many countries permits girls to marry only from the age of 18. This is arbitrary legislation, not Islamic law.
Shameful, shameful. They restrict the poor Muslims from exercising their rights to
Yep.
simply engage in the loving fun that they want to engage, the only fun that is allowed.
And
You can't
imitating
have
the Prophet.
any other was fun. Yeah, they want to imitate the Prophet. They want to be just like the Prophet. They don't want to laugh. They don't want to make jokes. They don't want to go to the club. They don't want to do any of these things. They want to marry little children. And why will you not allow them to do this?
Exactly. The
This is
Mufti
racist.
Fazlul Haq Amini in Bangladesh. Banning child marriage will cause challenging the marriage of the Holy Prophet of Islam. Can't have that.
Oh, really?
It would put the yep. It would put the moral character of the Prophet into controversy and challenge. Islam permits child marriage, and it will not be tolerated if any ruler will ever try to touch this issue in the name of giving more rights to women.
Let's not outlaw rape because that could put the morality of such and such person in question.
Dr. Salah bin Fawzan of Saudi Arabia. No minimum age for girls. They can be married even if they are in the cradle.
Yep.
So
Such is the ruling in the jurisprudential traditional books. As soon as she is born, she can be promised to somebody, and the marriage can be made. And as soon as somebody in charge, the parents or an imam, somebody authorized, can assure that the girl will not be permanently damaged as a result of sexual intercourse, they can allow the man to go ahead and do it. And he can even do it if he can make sure that he is not going to permanently harm her, and so on. It's really, really sick. Absolutely sick. This is Islam.
And so, Ahmed Yaqub, he was dealing with some older women there, 12 and 14.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe he got the idea from
He
Islam.
couldn't find the younger ones. Yeah, he couldn't find any younger ones. He was looking for younger ones. He thought 14, 12. Yeah, okay, at least something. Yeah.
Yes. Probably, of course, it has to be said, little caveat, that maybe he never heard of any of this. On the other hand, he grew up in a culture where this kind of thing was completely acceptable. And so it's more likely than not that he did hear about all this. All right, let's go to Switzerland. And this is the Black Madonna of Einsiedeln. You look like you've never seen such a thing.
I'm trying to figure it out.
It's a statue of Mary, the mother of Jesus. There's baby Jesus in her arms. She's in a cloud of glory, being taken up into heaven, something like that. In any case, why it's black? I think I've heard stories about that. Maybe somebody can explain in the comments. But there's more than one Black Madonna. Pope John Paul II had a devotion to the Black Madonna of Czestochowa in Poland. But this is the Black Madonna of Einsiedeln in Switzerland. And anyway,
That's why I was confused. You said Switzerland, and I thought maybe he said Swaziland. I don't know.
Yeah, Switzerland. There's a video. And unfortunately, I have not mastered the art of getting the videos here. I know it's terrible. I'm a 20th century guy. But a migrant from Afghanistan went into the church in Einsiedeln, and he went up to the altar in the middle of the service, and he took the Black Madonna. Actually, he didn't. He took the crown. I don't know if you can see it very well in the picture, but she's wearing a crown, the crown of glory in heaven, and he took the crown and put it on his own head. And he was standing over to her lower left, and then he started ripping her clothes off, which revealed probably not what he was hoping, because it's just sort of scaffolding.
He was very disappointed. You had to see his face.
Yes. Yes.
Wait a minute.
And they, of course, put him in a psychiatric hospital. But is there any possibility that this might not be mental illness?
Huh. It could be. We will never know.
I mean, is it possible that he might have such contempt for Christianity and for representations of the human form that he would express it in this way?
I mean, why would he? But the Quran says nothing but nice things about Christianity, such as that Christians are deluded because they take the words of those who came before them and take their priests and others as gods besides Allah, and may Allah destroy them. How deluded are they? And they are the enemies, and you shall not befriend them. And Jews and Christians are allies of one another, and Mary ate food.
Maybe that's what he wanted to check, if she was
full. I wonder if she will eat food. Jesus and Mary both ate food. That's what the Quran says. It's a very powerful argument.
Yes.
Very powerful argument. Whenever it is spoken, everybody is shocked. It is a very, very powerful stance.
Well, you see, they couldn't be God then, because the Quran thinks that that's the Trinity. Allah, Jesus, and Mary, and so they're all gods, supposedly. The Christians supposedly think, and so if they eat food, that cancels it out.
Yeah.
How could God
and Jesus cannot have a divine aspect, because if you are God, then it is literally impossible for you to choose to eat a sandwich. It's
yes, God. You know, when back in college, people would say stuff like, this pseudo-philosophical arguments. Is God so all-powerful he can make a stone that even he could not lift? And you think, maybe after a few joints, and a few beers at 3 a.m., that sounds profound, and you're stumped. The Quran kind of reads like that when it talks about Christianity. Oh, they ate food. They're not divine.
Oh, you think they were divine? Then how did they eat food? You see, you never thought about this. You never thought about this. Your mind is blown.
Yep. It's a great religion for being stoned in the dorm at 2 a.m.
It is. It is. Except it's a little bit too violent for being stoned. So.
That's true. It's you can never get so mellow as that. All right, let's see. There's an awful lot of stupid infidels. We have a stupid infidels category, and there's so many stupid infidels this week. Maybe we should dip into some of them before too much time goes by. Quite a lot of stupid infidels in Britain, as always. That's the land of the stupid infidels. And we have Wherwell Primary School in Andover, Hampshire. And they were putting on a Christmas show of Jack and the Beanstalk, which I didn't even know was a Christmas story. Is Jack and the Beanstalk a Christmas story? I don't have any idea.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a story about this kid who walks up a beanstalk and he gets into, I don't even know what, heaven? I don't know, maybe. Anyway, I don't even know. See, you have to be 12, but it's been a long time. So anyway, the principal informed the parents that there would be no mention of Christmas in this production of Jack and the Beanstalk because it would offend the non-Christian students. And they said, we are keen that all of our children should enjoy the pantomime, for it to be a fully inclusive event. And we have thus removed all Christmas songs from the production.
Wow.
Who are they talking about? They didn't mention who might be offended, but really, is there any other candidate?
The Hindus might be very offended by the...
Yes, yes. Always taking offense and getting mad at everybody.
Yeah. Of course, it is about the Muslims. It is about the Muslims who always feel like everything has to go by their by their whims and by their will and by their feelings. Even when you are in a foreign land, you demand that the foreign land adjusts to your demands and to your feelings and to your sentiments and so on. You know
That's
what's
it.
funny?
Yeah.
I grew up in Germany.
Yeah.
I was born in Germany and I grew up there, and I actually went to a Catholic kindergarten because it was it was close to our home, and I guess my parents thought a little bit about whether they should do it, so they did it eventually. I went to the Catholic kindergarten, and one day they dropped me off, and it was unannounced. They took us to do little music and gymnastics things, but they took us to the basement of the adjacent Catholic church.
Uh-oh.
And at home, I learned all of these horrible things about Christianity and Christians all the time, and I didn't know anything. I'm a kindergarten kid, so I learned that those who go to church, they have bad, terrible beliefs, and they believe in evil things, and they will go to hell and burn there. And if you go to church and you become like them, then you will also go to hell, and so on. These are things that I learned as a child. I didn't know any better. So when I realized as a child that we are heading toward the church, I started freaking out and crying and getting really, really scared, and threw myself on the ground and said, I can't go in there, I can't go. So they had to call my father to come in, who then asked them to please not take me into the church and to adjust their plans or something like that. But
Wow.
the next time they just took me to the church anyway, and I just took it. And it was a little bit ominous to me. I thought, oh man, I'm in the bad place. But anyway, I got used to it eventually, I guess. But this is what I was taught as a little child.
Were you scarred for life?
I still bear the scars.
Yes. Went to church, bears the scars. That would be a good T-shirt. Anyway, um, somebody says here, I've got to do this real quick because this comes up every now and again. This fellow wearing ears of some animal says, yeah, Bobby should do super chats. I assume that's me, and I can't do super chats. The gods of YouTube have decided that I'm too evil for that, and so there are no super chats here. Please help us to continue in other ways. Check out our Patreon and donate at JihadWatch.org. It'd be greatly appreciated, especially these days. Times are tough. So that's why there are no super chats. All right, interesting story also out of the UK, AP, and that is that there's a record surge in asylum seekers who say they're gay.
Oh.
Now, why is it possible that some of these guys who are coming from like Yemen, Eritrea, Afghanistan, Syria, maybe they're not really all that. I mean, maybe they are, but is it possible that they might be putting on the British authorities who were so easily fooled anyway?
That's the thing. Now that you ask that question, it's actually difficult because, on the one hand, they could be putting on an act and pretending that they're gay because they just so badly want to come in, and they deal with a very gullible people and a very gullible government that they can sell such things to quite easily. But then on the other hand, they also come from places that happen to be ruled by very peaceful religions and sentiments, which would endanger their lives very significantly. So it's, wow. How do you handle this?
Well, also
Maybe we should handle this by importing more Islam and allowing Islam to be more,
that'll
in
fix it.
charge.
But you also got to wonder. I mean, my understanding has been that in a place like Afghanistan, you can really get involved with this kind of behavior all you want as long as you get married and have children.
Yes, yes.
It's only if you say, "Oh, this is my lifestyle," that becomes a problematic thing, and you would have to flee and claim asylum. But how
Yeah, well,
many people does that really involve?
you can't be gay and have a gay relationship with somebody. You can be a regular traditional person and then have gay relationships with little boys. That's part of the culture, part of a beautiful culture over there.
So you got the little girls on the one hand and the little boys on the other.
Well,
Just like in paradise, actually, where you
exactly.
have the virgins and the boys like pearls.
What is life but a taste of what awaits you in paradise?
Indeed. So, all right. Totally changing the subject. We have in Canada, Mississauga, Ontario, which has a very high population of Muslims. Where is she? I know I have a picture of her. Oh yeah, here she is. This is the mayor of Mississauga, Ontario. You can tell she's an infidel. She is Carolyn Parrish, and they were going to have the Muslims in Mississauga, who were quite numerous, were going to have a march and a vigil in honor of Yahya Sinwar. And so she was getting a lot of heat, Carolyn Parrish, for allowing this. And in her own defense, she said, "What are you talking about? Yahya Sinwar is like Nelson Mandela."
Wow.
Yes. Do you think there are any differences between Yahya Sinwar and Nelson Mandela?
Um, a few, yeah. For example, as far as I know, Nelson Mandela didn't deliberately didn't say that he wants more of his own civilian population killed because their blood is what will uh, what will help them achieve their goals. I think that Nelson Mandela didn't advocate for an Islamic caliphate and and so on. So there are some differences here and there. Surely, yes.
Indeed. Nelson Mandela was fighting against a real injustice, to have a minority population have rights over the majority population. I don't think it's worked out so well for South Africa since then, but
Yeah,
to
it didn't.
say that Nelson Mandela was somebody on par with Yahya Sinwar, well, it's really an insult to Mandela, and it exalts this terrible person, Sinwar, who masterminded the October 7th massacres out
Yeah.
of all proportion.
To Yahya Sinwar, it was completely acceptable and even good to target civilians, to kill civilians, to take as many of them as they can as hostages, but also kill as many of them as they can, because dead bodies are good, and living bodies can also be happily exchanged for terrorist prisoners held inside Israel and so on. Yahya Sinwar is part of the organization whose main goal it was to destroy Israel, to eradicate the Jews, to make all of that land an Arab land, and then from there basically to kickstart this wonderful new thing called the New Caliphate. So
Yes, wonderful. All right, we have one stupid infidel mayor, and now here's another. This is Femke Halsema. I guess her name is pronounced. I don't know, but she's
she's
the
from
mayor.
Apostate.
Yeah, exactly. She's the mayor of Amsterdam, where there was just a pogrom with Muslims running wild in the streets, attacking Jews. It got so bad that the government of Israel actually sent planes to get the Jews out of Amsterdam because the Amsterdam police either could not or would not help. And it was a very bad situation. It was widely reported as a pogrom, which is a word that is used for violent attacks against Jews throughout history. And she herself used it last week. But this week, she says, "Oh no, never mind. It was not a pogrom." And the reason why she says that it was not a pogrom is not because new evidence has come in. There were actually claims that the Jews had originally attacked Muslims in Amsterdam, and that turned out not to be true. And thus, there's really no reason not to call it a pogrom. But what Femke Halsema says now is that the words were used to discriminate against Moroccan Amsterdammers, Muslims. That is not what I meant or what I wanted. So it's not a pogrom anymore because people got upset with Muslims. I know, I
it,
know. It's to
I,
laugh, it's to cry.
I don't even know what to say anymore. Isn't it insane? I saw her speak out the day that the pogrom happened, and the day after that it happened. She came out and she said that she feels ashamed and disgusted because it was very clearly an organized attack against Israelis and Jews in the city, and there is no new evidence that came out which changed things later on. It is directly an attack. It was planned in advance and carried out. Random Jews, random Israelis were attacked. It was a pogrom. But really, her reasoning for changing those words and apologizing for that word is that the word was used to discriminate against Moroccan Muslims in the Netherlands. That is just so incredibly stupid.
Yes.
So incredibly, absolutely idiotic. It just goes against everything that I learned in Europe. You know, like
Hmm.
learning and speaking the truth and calling a spade, saying things as they are, being honest and direct. These are things that I learned. And you can now just change the language and change definitions because it happens to offend Muslims or be used to discriminate against them. Wow,
Yep, that's right.
Europe is cooked, as they
Yes.
say.
Here's more, actually. Speaking of Europe being cooked, the police chief of Berlin, Barbara Slovic, has issued a warning to Jews and LGBTQ plus individuals to exercise caution in certain areas of the German capital. Now, she said there are no no-go zones, but just there are areas where you don't go.
Yeah, I
Really,
saw
I
her. I
yes.
saw her statement. She said that although at this point the attacks remain few and with some distance apart, every single case is bad and is dangerous. And she openly said, I was actually surprised by this. She openly said that that there are parts of Berlin that have high Arab populations, and the Arab population is known to have to really dislike Jews and to wish harm upon Jews and to engage in harmful activities against Jews and to also support terrorist organizations, which is why Jews walking into such places should, especially if they are wearing a yarmulke, a kippah, they should consider removing it when they walk into those places.
Mhm.
And same thing for gay people. So they basically say, so she basically said, and Germany is basically saying now that in Berlin it is getting more and more unsafe to be a Jewish person and to be gay, which is very funny because that was not a very dangerous thing in Germany. Germany is known to have a very relaxed culture.
I remember I was there. It's over 10 years ago now, so it's before 2015 when Merkel let in the mass millions of Muslims. And the Berlin was a very clean, orderly city. It was sort of stereotypically German, you know, that everything worked and everything was gleaming, and there didn't seem to be any significant crime. It was a very nice place, really, but well, no more.
Yeah, I grew up in a southwestern part of Germany and had not been there after we moved away and moved to Turkey. Many years later, I went to Germany to visit that place, and what surprised me was at the entrance of the town where I lived, they took a big gymnasium and turned it completely into a refugee housing
Hmm.
place, and much of the environment there became unrecognizable, and people weren't going out anymore. They would prefer to go to a different city nearby to have fun and so on. Things change a little bit, and the whole, a danger for Jews. Seriously, I know how Germany thinks, and I know how Germans think, and they have forever thought that any sign or any sound that is that reminds us of Nazi Germany, of Nazi times, is bad, should be banned. Nazi signs should be banned. You shall not say certain phrases because it's very bad, it's shameful, it's disgusting. However, while doing that, they have been importing massive numbers of people who hold on to a religious political ideology that is about as dangerous against Jews as the Nazi idea.
Mm-hmm.
About as dangerous for Jews.
It's absurd. It's just
very stupid.
Yes, it's incredible. It's breathtaking, the stupidity. But anyway, meanwhile, there are signs that some countries are cracking down on crime. Let me find this guy. This is Nikita Zhuravel. You know him?
No.
Let me get him here. Nikita, he's the poor guy. I feel bad for him. Nikita Zhuravel is a Russian, and you can see that he is in prison. He's behind bars here in the photo, and he is from Volgograd, which is Stalingrad, where the site of the famous World War II battle. And in Volgograd, more recently, he burned the Quran, Nikita Zhuravel. And Putin, said recently that anybody who burns the Quran in Russia is going to get sent to the Muslim parts of Russia for trial. So he wants them dead. He wants the Russians to help him fight in Ukraine. I mean, he wants the Muslims to help him fight in Ukraine, and so he's going all in on blasphemy. He sent Nikita Zhuravel to Chechnya, where he is in prison. Yes. And now he's awaiting trial for the Quran burning, but now he's also been charged with treason. And so this poor guy, he's probably not going to live much longer, and not going to get out of this alive, barring some unforeseen circumstance. And so there is a person named Svetlana Ganushkina, who is the head of the Civic Assistance Committee. And she says, "It is, of course, bad to burn the Quran. But everything that has happened to Zhuravel since then is even worse, not only for him, but also for interrelations of Muslims with non-Muslims. Any faith needs no protection of this kind." So there is some sanity in Russia, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to save Nikita Zhuravel. In any case, burning the Quran, we've seen a lot of it in the West. And I don't know what you think of it, but do you think that this guy should even be in prison?
I think the guy should be rewarded. This is so funny to me because there are lots of people in the West who engaging in conversations about Russia make it look like Russia is unlike the West. Russia is this place where they are protecting Christian traditional values and not selling out and so on. They are not aware that Russia has a very, very big, a very large Muslim population that it did acquire by different means, but that in Russia you can't openly say whatever you want about Islam. For example, I knew somebody who went from Turkey to Russia and basically sought asylum there, but then later on he started getting in trouble with the Russian government because he was making online statements about Islam that were not appreciated, and Russia wanted to crack down on that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, Putin himself recently was meeting with his Chechen strongman, what's his name? Kadyrov.
Kadyrov, yeah.
Yeah, and he kissed the Quran.
Oh yeah, he did. He did.
So
He smooched the Quran just like Muslims smooch the black stone when they go to the Kaaba, to the beautiful Kaaba. They go and smooch it, and smooch the Quran, which curses the Christians and says, "Do not make them your allies, and whoever befriends them, then he is one of them." That's the Quran that you smooch.
yeah,
Wonderful.
and he's supposed to be a serious Christian. I mean, even
Yeah,
Pope John Paul II, 25 years ago, he kissed the Quran as well.
I still don't know what to think about that.
Well, I think there's actually two possibilities. One is the Chaldean patriarch was with them, and it may be that he thought it was a gospel book
Okay.
because it was just a book in Arabic, and I don't think John Paul II read Arabic. It's also possible that he didn't have any idea what's in the Quran, because how many Christians do? Very few. And so he figured it would just be nice, it would be
Uh-huh.
sign of respect.
Yeah.
That, of course, was not reciprocated.
It never will be.
Indeed. But there's nothing really to worry about, because this is Abdullah al-Buaijan.
What a nice looking guy.
Yeah, you can tell he's brimming with love.
Yeah.
He is actually a preacher at Muhammad's mosque in Mecca.
Oh.
And so he's a man of distinction. And he was the guest of honor at a peace conference called Islam is the Religion of Humanity and Peace in India. And as he was the guest of honor at this conference, he chimed in. He said, Islam is a religion of security and peace. And it just amazes me. What I think is telling about this is I come across stories like this every now and again, where some clown is saying this. And this guy, of course, is a preacher at Muhammad's mosque. He's not just some ranting imam on the street. And he's telling us this. But why do they have to keep telling us this? Have you ever heard some Christian preacher say, Christianity is a religion of peace?
No.
And they never seem to feel the need to go around saying that.
You have to repeatedly say it. One of the most famous instance, and many people don't even know, or just seem to move past it, or get over it. But one of the most famous cases of Islam being called a religion of peace was actually after 9/11, when the president of the United States, George W. Bush, came out and said that it's not about Islam, and Islam is a religion of peace. It became very, very popularized, and this notion spread. But it was also, prior to that, the notion was spread by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Is that what it was called?
Yes.
They spread this idea that they need to spread awareness of the narrative that Islam is a peaceful religion, and that everyone can find peace under Islam. This is not an old Islamic idea. This is a very, very new idea, and has been established specifically because that is what people outside of Islam need to hear, especially after every single time that Islamists carry out terrorist attacks or do something violent. Somebody has to attack and kill and hurt somebody, and then the crowds have to go out and say, no, 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 no. It's a religion of peace. It's a religion of peace. Don't be confused. Yes, Islam is responsible for over 80% of terrorism-related deaths. However, that has nothing to do with Islam, because Islam is a religion of peace.
Yes.
That's why people are dying, because they find it so peaceful.
Well, yeah, you might as well die, because that's what's more peaceful than that.
Exactly. Dying is peace. There is no better peace that you can find than anything else.
So, on the other side of the coin, since you mentioned that this guy is what we always see after terror attacks. Can't find him now. Oh, here he is. That there's another sheikh, Yusuf al-Naseri, who is a senior official in an Iraqi militia I can't find his picture now. Anyway, on Nujaba, and he said some very interesting stuff recently. And one of them was, our war in Palestine is not just a Palestinian Zionist war. It is a global war. I said in the conference earlier today that if Palestine falls in the Zionists' hands, Russia and the world will also fall. Do not think that the war in Palestine is a minor war. It is a global war. Why is it a global war?
That is because Islam has a fake, fabricated claim on the land of Jerusalem, and it is the Islamic responsibility to hold on to that land and to never give it to anybody else. Well, there are several reasons. One is that if you have taken Islamic land, it is permanently to be kept by Muslims. It cannot fall to non-Muslims. Even if non-Muslims take it, Muslims have the ultimate irrevocable right to eventually take it back because it is Islamic land. But secondly, Muhammad made some prophecies, and the prophecies also say that that land, Jerusalem, shall be taken by Muslims, and there, something very, very interesting would take place, which is also in the Hamas charter, and which is also repeated by Muslim preachers around the world, by very, very nice Muslim preachers, who otherwise are invited to peaceful conversations and peaceful talks. When asked about it, they will say, oh yeah, this is eschatological. The Prophet Muhammad did say that before the day of judgment comes, the Muslims will fight the Jews, and they will kill the Jews. And the Jews will be hiding behind rocks and trees. And the rocks and trees will say, Muslim, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. And the Muslims will hear that, except for one tree, which is not a snitch. One tree, the Garga tree. The Garga tree is a loyal tree of the Jews. The Garga tree will never say there is a Jew behind me. So the Muslims will seek out the Garga tree, because that's not a snitch, and will find a Jew behind that Garga tree. And that is how the Muslims will eradicate the Jews. This is what Muhammad said. Which, of course, please don't think that this is something violent. It is all peaceful, all nice, and not hateful at all. It's just something that peaceful Muslims believe.
Yes. So An-Naseri goes on. This is I love this. The difference between the Americans and us is that the Americans are brainless cowboys. They are diabolical, satanic, murderous, rogues, terroristic, bloodthirsty, and bloodshedding. They kill women and children along with fighting men. We are different. We do not have that mentality. We have a civilization and history. Their civilization is immature. How old is the United States? 300? That's why they're proud to be cowboys.
What a wonderful statement.
Yes.
Full of facts and logic.
Yes. But I think it's amazing, the projection here. They kill women and children along with fighting men. They're diabolical, satanic, murderous, rogue, terroristic, bloodthirsty, and bloodshedding. We are different. We do not have that mentality.
We would never do something like that.
Yes, and yet the Jihad terror attacks, they're not done by brainless cowboys.
And their greatest heroes, the Hamas fighters on October 7, went from home to eradicate entire families, but they probably did so on accident or because they happened to be cowboys. Yeah.
Yes, that was all it was.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in Houston, the FBI says, anyway, that they stopped a major terror attack from happening. A 28-year-old man, Anas Saeed, was searching for ways to commit violent acts on behalf of the Islamic State in the Houston area. And I think what was interesting is that they said, we've been watching this guy since 2018. And I thought, this is the first time I have ever seen the FBI say they have been watching some guy before he killed people. Usually we only hear after he kills people, oh yeah, we had him on our radar, we were watching him. Usually they just watch them until they commit jihad. Why they swooped in on poor Anas Saeed before that, I don't know.
He has a very exotic name, though.
Anas Saeed?
Yeah, I wonder where that is from. I wonder what background that is from. Very, very exotic. I just can't put my mind on it. I don't know what. I don't know what that is.
Well, isn't Saeed is I don't know. There are a lot of. That's the kind of name you're going to get anywhere, right?
Yeah, it's a very exotic name, probably from some far lands that where they have some beautiful religion that adds
Yes.
cultural enrichment and diversity to wherever it goes.
Well, the great thing about ISIS, although of course usually they call it ISIS without explaining, but if you say the Islamic State, then people have to be told that it's Islam, that it's involved. When
Hmm.
usually the news reports try to cover that up in any way they possibly can. Anyway, oh yeah, I didn't want to let the hour go by without Jamila Timayeva? Yeah, Jamila Timayeva. I know I have her here. Thought I did. There she is. That's Jamila. And she is in England. You can see she's English. And she's a Sunday school teacher. And she even made a coloring book for her students called Little
That's nice.
Muwahideen, glorifying waging jihad against non-believers. She was a Sunday school teacher at the Tawheed Islamic Education Center. And I think that's interesting that they have classes for children on Sunday, since they don't have Sunday morning worship, which is why the Christians have Sunday school. The children get instructed at the same time. But anyway, in England, apparently the mosques also have Sunday school.
Tawheed Islamic Education Center.
Yes,
Tawheed.
indeed. The
That's
one
what they
is
do
Allah.
in Muslims in non-Muslim countries in the West. That's that's how I grew up. For example, I would go to a place to get a little bit of Islamic education on the weekends.
Ah, yes.
That's it's fine because they don't do that really in Muslim countries, but they do it over here.
So, well, in Muslim countries, it's everywhere, so you don't
Hmm.
need the instructions so directly. But anyway, they found she had material on the permissibility of suicide operations, and she had written a note on her phone: "The woman I want to be. What motivates her? Promise of Allah that He will reward. Being the mother of the soldiers of Allah, the one who raised them and incited them to jihad." And she taught her little students at the Tawheed Islamic Center that they should grow up to wage war against they had a duty to wage war for Islam when they got older.
That's very nice of her that she wants to educate little children.
It is. How could anybody object to such a thing?
Yes, there's nothing wrong with teaching.
Yes.
There's nothing more beautiful than teaching little children to.
Here's a beautiful teaching situation. This is the car of Anne Marie. I don't know how to say this. Cauce. Cauchy. I don't know. Anyway, Anna Marie Cauchy is the president of the University of Washington in Washington State. And pro-Hamas vandals not only painted her car in this charming way, Anne Marie, there's blood on your hands, and poured red paint all over it, but they also broke into her house and
Oh,
carved Hamas symbols inside her house.
why her? What did she do?
Apparently, she is. Oh, they also slashed the tires of the car, and
Very
they
rude.
they 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 demand that the University of Washington divest from any investment in Israel. They say Anna Marie funds genocide, and so they tried to persuade her by terror,
That
which
seems like a
is
very, very effective method of persuasion right there.
yeah, yeah. Everybody, well, they consider, of course. It's funny how Muslims the world over love to work on the basis of intimidation. You know, I see that with you guys, and you get in these debates, and the debaters are always saying, you know, oh, I destroyed you, and all this
I
nonsense.
humiliated you.
Yeah, exactly. And they try to put you on the defensive and make you have to try to explain 20 things, you know, and in 5 minutes, and they keep throwing them out so that you can't get to all of them. And it's all
Yeah.
just trying to traffic and intimidation. It's just another variation on the theme here that they did at the University of Washington. Uh, it's a very common, very favored tactic among jihadis.
I have a very interesting idea for those students. They could just choose not to attend the university. You know, they believe in boycotting things. They could just boycott the university.
Yes, they should boycott. All of them should boycott all the nation's universities, and then maybe sanity would return on campus.
In fact, they
Yeah.
should also go further and boycott the entire nation, you know, and go somewhere else.
Yeah, did you see the terrible story? I don't even have it here. I should have thought to get it. But I saw it this week. There was a sob story in The Guardian, I think, somewhere, about how terrible a situation it is for Muslims in Britain. And they're facing all kinds of discrimination. And I think, I'm the kidding. You've got the government's favor behind you. You're about to take over, and they're whining about being victims. Go home then. But anyway.
Exactly, exactly. If it says in the Quran that if there is oppression in the land, isn't the land big enough for you to go somewhere else?
There
So
you go.
that's what you should do. You should go somewhere else.
Well, that's what we're going to do. We have hit an hour of jihad, and so we're going to go somewhere else. And next week we may even be back. Somebody will, anyway. We Thank you, AP, for being here with us tonight and helping us explain all this. And until next week, pray, hope, and don't worry.
Thank you. It was a pleasure and an honor. Stay away from Oslo.